it like that, Peter. You dig this
Yeah, that's not
intro?
bad at all. Yeah.
Yes. Let's give credit. This is a metal cover of the X-Files theme by Richard E.B., which you can find on YouTube. I figured we wouldn't be hit with any copyright stuff if we just got this dude's video. And it was fucking awesome. I loved it. I was just looking for alternative X-Files themes. So the more I find, the more I'll keep introing with them. Thank you, everybody who's joined us on this journey of X File fanaticism, the X Phillies out there in the X Files groups and other groups out there, the sci fi groups, wherever I post our videos. And thank you to the administrators who let us post the videos because that's also very nice of you. But how you doing, Pete?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's been a busy ass week, but chugging along and getting near the end.
Yeah, it is. We're getting towards the end of it all, and guys, today we get to start season two. Which so far I'm almost done season two, and actually yesterday I watched what is probably my favorite episode of like the series as a whole. So I was really happy. I'm not gonna say what it is. No spoilers. So I really like season two. I think it's a bit stronger than season one on a lot, um, on a lot of in a lot of aspects. What do you think of season two?
Yeah, I just actually finished episode 21, I think. I'm not exactly sure what number it was. Yeah, I've just finished 21, so I got 4 episodes to go. Yeah, it's pretty good. The batch we're looking at now is kind of a unique patch in the series, in that there are no X Files throughout this batch. But a pretty strong middle, and we'll have to wait and see how the end goes. I have, of course, seen it before, but again, it's been a long time since like 2007, 2008. So we'll see how it goes, but overall, pretty solid.
Oh, and by the way, Pete shared the cutest video of him watching the X Files with his little kid. When his little kid was like a little baby, wasn't he? And it was nice. And he was like, "This is how long it's been since I've watched the X Files." And your kid is what now, like 14?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a while. And I'm amazed by how much I forgot too. I mean, I can barely remember these episodes we're going to review now, and I only saw them like 3 weeks ago. Like, there's so much that they pack into one episode. That's what amazes me about the X Files is how much they can pack into 45 minutes, man. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And I mean, I need my notes with me. And even with my notes, there's stuff that I put down and I'm like, oh, what was I referencing here? Like, I don't remember. And I have to go on the X Files fandom and try to remember what the hell I was, the hell I was even thinking about. So there's a lot they pack in. So let's get started. Well, actually, no. Before we get started, I do want, I always try to get some X Files news out there. Let me see. Are we sharing the screen? And Gillian Anderson is way too horny online. So I found out recently, although she's been doing this for a while, that Gillian Anderson loves to post phalluses on her Instagram page. And I really need to start following her now. And this is because she's in a show called Sex Education. I guess that's actually our friend Renee was talking about this show a couple of weeks ago on our weekly movie review podcast on Mondays. I haven't seen the show, but now I'm kind of interested to watch it just because Jillian is in it. And she plays I think a sex ed teacher or something like that. So she was giving an interview. She said that her son isn't allowed to watch the show, and and he's definitely not allowed to follow her on Instagram. She blocked him on Instagram because she just posts a lot of penises. As you can see, she's got some chicken penises, and I don't know what the hell that is, like a crystalline penis. So that's her thing, okay? And Jillian's always been a bit of a freak. Have you ever seen the video for Extremis?
No.
Oh my God, Pete. Well, I'll have to send that to you after the podcast, and you can bust a nice little, you know what, because it is a hell of a sexy video, man. If It's just Gillian Anderson in like uh, I don't know, like a nightgown, having sexy robot love or something. Like she's all like talking sexy and rapping, and it's like it's something to behold. I will send that video to you if you if you've
Okay.
never. You will love it. You will love it. And yes, it's a little sex kitten, as we've already stated. As one of the lone gunmen said, she is hot, and she
Yes.
knew it. And she knew it. So we're gonna get straight to the big guns. The show opens up with this episode called Little Green Men, written by Morgan and Wong, viewed by 16 million folks on September 16th, 1994. I wanted to believe, but the tools have been taken away. They closed our eyes, our voices have been silenced, and our ears now deaf to the realms of extreme possibilities. Little Green Men is the first episode of the second season of the X Files. The synopsis is: with the X Files closed, Mulder is contacted by a political ally and sent on a dangerous mission to a radio telescope in Arecibo, Puerto Rico. I'm gonna let Pete go with this.
Yeah, so at the end of the last season, the X Files were closed. So, what becomes of the story, and how do we get back on track? What are Mulder and Scully doing? These are the main questions that we have kicking off the season premiere. So, it finds Mulder assigned to doing bullshit wiretap work. He's not working with Scully anymore. He's doing basic surveillance work, which he absolutely hates. Mulder or Scully is teaching medical stuff at the FBI Academy, forensic science, that sort of shit. And Mulder's kind of started to lose his belief in the paranormal, which is kind of odd because in the first season he had it pretty heavily reconfirmed. But I think it's not so much it's his belief that he's questioning as whether or not it's worth the pursuit. So yes, as the summary said, he gets summoned to a meeting with this senator who tells him about this station in, I think it's Puerto Rico, that is,
Yes.
yeah, it's monitoring the old Voyager program where they introduced that at the beginning of the episode. Actually, they talk about the Voyager program that sent out this satellite to pick up signs of extraterrestrial life somewhere out there, and there is now signs of a response. So Mulder heads out there to find this response before the government gets there to destroy all the evidence. And Scully is separate from all this, but of course they form this deep friendship. She's afraid that Mulder's going to get himself in deep shit again because he's not supposed to be chasing aliens. And once again, that trope rears its head as she also breaks with protocol and goes to track his subordinate butt down for the millionth time already.
Yeah, she's over in Quantico. Um, how'd you like this episode? Because it is kind of a mythos. I guess you could categorize it as a mythos episode.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about it, but it was. I liked the way they set the stage for the second season more than the story itself, because it's definitely another one of those episodes where they tease aliens, and we got the shadow of an alien, I believe, and that was about it. Um, so it didn't really do a lot in terms of moving the story forward in any real way, but it set the stage for the season quite nicely just by showing us where these characters are at this point in time and giving them a point B to go to from this point A.
Yeah, I agree with you. Although I did give it a pretty high ranking, I gave it 4.5 out of 5 because stylistically I dig it. But I'm with you. Like it's the first of many we got it all and we got nothing episodes, which gets to be a little bit frustrating as we go along. Where at the end he's got all the evidence, but it got all destroyed in the whatever came to visit the Arecibo satellite. Which, by the way, Arecibo is that's an actual place, and it's probably, if you guys dig movies, if you've seen the movie Contact with Jodie Foster, it plays a big part in that because they supposedly received some alien signals from there too. So it's out there kind of looking for signals of intelligent life. Not sure if it's still being funded or not, but I guess they were playing off of that idea that these satellites are out there looking for intelligent life. What I love about this episode is the atmosphere, certifiably chilling abduction scenes. Like not well, pseudo abduction, because something definitely is at that door, and somebody definitely opens it, and there's definitely a silhouette of something scary outside. Man, I remember watching this first run, scared the shit out of me. Watched it now, scared the shit out of me. And we're gonna get to another episode in this podcast that also has a really scary abduction scene. But this one, like Pete said, just really set the scene or set the stage for where the rest of the season was gonna go. Where Mulder and Scully's relationship was, how far she would go to help him. I mean, she saved his ass a million times already, but she goes and saves his ass again. How desperate Mulder is for the truth, which gets to be more and more like paranoid level as the seasons go on. I like that we got to see Skinner showing some backbone when he stood up to the cigarette smoking man because, Mulder ran into the office and was getting all berated by Skinner. And then he's like, my phone's being tapped. And he showed the tap. And Skinner just looked at cigarette smoking man and said, get out of my office. And it still doesn't answer the question of what the hell the cigarette smoking man does in there all day, but whatever. And I dug it for those reasons. I think it's a pretty strong, just like a overture. You're not getting the story in the overture of an opera, but you're getting the meaty parts. You're getting a little bit of what you're gonna get moving ahead. So I dug it. I dug it. You can't show your hand too early in a 20. I think this had 25 episodes this season.
It did,
So
yeah.
yeah, so you can't show your hand too early, but set the stage and really let us know, okay, get ready for some really wild shit this season. We're going to throw the kitchen sink at you right from
Yeah.
episode one.
Although they did not throw the kitchen sink at them in terms of the travel budget, because it's like, wow, yeah, well, in terms of Puerto Rico, I thought, well, I mean, they're actually going to do some crazy ass on location shooting, but actually, you can see pine trees in Puerto Rico. So yeah, no, folks, that was still Vancouver standing in for Puerto Rico this time, which is a bit of
Well,
a stretch.
Pete, you know what I put in my notes? I wrote down Puerto Rico and then I put a question mark after.
Yeah.
So I feel you on that. It's like Puerto Rico ish. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at least it wasn't snowing.
Yeah,
So
no, they were careful to avoid any shots of the ocean, which is kind of
yes.
important because the Caribbean and the Pacific do not look the same.
Um, but overall, I enjoy it. It's one of those mythology episodes that can almost work as a standalone episode, and I think I liked it for that reason. So I gave it some a higher ranking because of that. Because it's just enjoyable to see Mulder going nuts and Scully and him just trying to work their way around their new situation. The No X Files, which is that the first? I mean, is that the last time that they closed down the X Files? Right? Don't they close it again in later
They close
seasons?
it
I forgot
down.
now.
They close it down between, I think, season 6 and 7 to set up the movie.
Five, no, 5 and 6 then.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, good. That makes sense because I was watching a little bit of the movie this weekend or last weekend, and yeah, it seemed like they were out of work. They were like doing other stuff that wasn't X File related. I was like, wait a second, they closed down these X Files again. But anyway, so I guess we'll get to that when we get to that. So cool, cool, cool. And by the way, don't forget to like and subscribe, folks. And one thing that I am enjoying, Pete, you're not in many of the X Files groups, but a lot of folks are rewatching this series, man, and they're starting right from season one. So hopefully, we're catching some of these folks as they're going along and they're enjoying these episodes with us. So, as always, in the comments, tell us what your favorite episodes are, and thanks for all the views. And last week, Pete, something very special happened. Do you know what it is?
No.
We got our first dislike, which
Oh,
I love.
really?
Because
Okay.
people that hate us watch us more. That's a tendency.
Okay.
So we got our first dislike on a video, but we're getting a nice steady stream of viewership, which is nice. We got our group of X Files fanatics and friends. And always, guys, leave stuff in the comments. We're happy to talk to you. Next episode is The Host, and it premiered on September 23rd, 1994. Written by Chris Carter, directed by Daniel Sackheim. By the way, last episode was directed by whom? Oh, David Nutter. Oh, yeah, he's ace director for the X Files. But this one written by Chris Carter, surprising. Because it's a really tight episode. While continuing work unrelated to the X Files, Mulder apparently finds evidence of a giant fluke worm like monster living in the New Jersey sewage system. I gotta go with this, man. I give this
Yeah.
episode 5 fucking stars. This
Yeah,
is
me
the New
too.
Jersey episode that we needed. Because this is New Jersey. It's dirty.
Yeah.
We're a bunch of assholes. And of course, there's going to be a toilet monster in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Of course. So I love it. I love it. I love this episode. I loved it back in the day and
Yeah.
continue to love it now. By the way, I mean, not. I think most of the fans probably already know, but any new fans to the show, the guy in the suit, Fluke Man, is Darren Morgan, Glenn Morgan's brother, and it's
Yeah.
a Monster of the Week episode. It's got so many cool scenes. It's got the cool looking monster who's
Yes.
freaky as hell. It's got Scully doing these crazy autopsies. Oh my
Yeah.
god, I love the Scully autopsies become to me like in The Sopranos, the scenes in the psychiatrist's office. It's like those are the scenes I'm waiting for. The rest of the series is classic. It's great, but I used to love watching all of the Scully autopsies. In season 2, she has a lot of good ones, including one inside of an elephant.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just disgusting. It's a disgusting, disgusting episode. And it starts out on this Russian ship where these sailors go down to the lower decks to fix a blockage, and then he gets uh, torn up by something inside of the ship. And then this thing, whatever it is, ends up in Newark, New Jersey, a city I've been to many times, not a place you want to be. And Mulder's a little bit upset because he thinks that Skinner's got him on just this regular old case of, finding some perp who murdered somebody. But what I like is that we start to see Skinner's true colors, that he's
Yes.
on Mulder's side. He's like,
Yeah.
I can't officially give you an X Files case, but there's something about this that if you keep fishing, no pun intended, you might find interesting. So he continues, and we find out that yes, there are some weird things going on in New Jersey. And Scully, of course, is there to help him. And it's interesting too that Mulder and Scully can't really talk to each other. They can't be seen together. So they meet almost in a deep throat way on a bench to talk about what's going on. And then later on, they find out that this guy working in the store, was it the guy in the store that got attacked, and he's got the little fluke
Yes.
worm inside him. Oh my god, it's so nasty. And then it comes out of him. Ah!
Yeah.
And then we also have the great scenes in the sewage processing plant where Ray, the foreman, gives Mulder the tour of the place, and then they notice something moving inside the infiltration pools. And then Scully is doing some research on her computer, and she sees that something has been slid under her door. So we start to get
Yes.
a little um, maybe somebody else helping Mulder out. By the way, we failed to mention that in the first episode, it was a senator that helped Mulder out. So
Yes,
there
it
are
was.
people out there. There are people out there that are on his side. And this episode becomes very important because it's not the first visual appearance of X, but he definitely shows up to let Mr. Mulder know that there's someone on his side. And then I love the last act where they have to find out where this fluke monster is because he ended up in a porta potty, and then the guy
Yeah.
sucks him into a sewage truck. But then he goes inside this. The sewage truck goes to the sewage plant, and they gotta find this creature inside there. And everything I love it is good, including the fact that Fluke Man doesn't ever really die. You know, he,
Yeah.
he so for me, Fluke Man's up there with Mr. Toombs as one of the great classic
Yeah.
monsters of the week. So love it, love it. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely one of my all-time favorites. I couldn't remember what season it occurred in, but I remember like when I started rewatching it, I was looking forward to this because it has some classic moments. I really like the character interactions both between Mulder and Skinner and Mulder and Scully in this one. First of all, because like Mulder's kind of an ungrateful here, actually, because as you said, Skinner's actually trying to help him out. Like, your talents are being wasted on the work you're doing now. I'm going to throw you a case that, maybe would have been an X file, and maybe you can do something here that, regular law enforcement can't. So Skinner's trying to help him out, but he can't really say he's helping him out. And as a result, Mulder just thinks he's being dicked around, and he's kind of an asshole about it, actually. Then, as the investigation progresses, they identify the wounds on the victims as belonging to, like, similar to belonging to fluke worms, but much bigger. And in that first autopsy scene, there's a scene where Mulder, with a complete straight face, asks Scully, "So, like, how big do these get?" And Scully basically almost spits out her coffee laughing. And she's like, "Mulder, you're not suggesting that like a human-sized fluke worm attacked this thing?" And he's like, okay, I wanted to know because actually I'm relieved. I didn't want to have to tell Skinner that his suspect was a giant blood-sucking worm. And then about 20 minutes later in the episode, when they see the thing, he looks at her, he's like, "Looks like I'm going to have to tell Skinner his suspect's a giant blood-sucking worm after all." And Skinner takes it pretty well. He reads the report and he's like, "Okay, that's no denying it." Like, they actually had him in custody at one point. And then he
Mm-hmm.
escaped, and because they were going to try him. It's like, how the fuck can you try this thing? But yeah, they were holding him for psychiatric evaluation, and he escapes and then winds up in the processing plant where the big, smelly, stinky showdown takes place. But yes, really cool monster. I like the explanation of how he was created. Basically, the Russian freighter was hauling material from Chernobyl, and somewhere in this radioactive bile of body waste, radioactive waste. There was a fluke worm in there, and it just got really big.
Very
But
big. This
also,
is like
not not only did it get really big, but it took on like humanoid qualities too. Like it wasn't just a fluke worm; it had certain biologically human qualities.
yeah. Well, that's like all the aliens in Star Trek look human. I guess they had to do something with it, but it was great. I remember this episode freaked the shit out of my mom when I grew up. So those are good memories. Those are good memories of this episode, and that's for me so far the most enjoyable bits of the rewatch have been the Monster of the Week episodes, which is funny how that changed. I guess it has a little to do with season 10 and 11 because the mythology arc was just like, oh my god, Chris Carter, just let it go. But it already kind of lost steam towards the end of the original run of the series. So I can't say that how the mythology arc ends doesn't somehow what's the word I'm looking for, influence how I see them as I'm watching them now. I can't say
Right.
that it doesn't influence it at all. Whereas the Monster of the Weeks, man, you just put them on and you enjoy them. And it's funny because before the balance, I think, was the other way. I used to hold the mythology arc at much higher esteem. But the more I watch the series, the more I really appreciate what they were able to do just week to week as far as just trying to scare or weird the shit out of you. So definitely dig this one. 5 stars for me. This is definitely going to be in the top 8 when we do the season rundown.
Yeah.
But let's move ahead to episode 3, which takes place in Franklin, Pennsylvania. It's an episode called Blood, which I couldn't find. Oh, excuse me, I couldn't find too many visual representations of. But Blood was. Give me a second here. Blood premiered on September 30th. 14 million viewers. Written by Darren Morgan, teleplay by Morgan and Wong, and directed by David Nutter. Apparently prompted by messages from digital appliances with instructions to kill, several residents of a farming community suddenly turn violent and dangerous. And I'm definitely going to let Pete go first because I'll be honest with you, I can't remember much from this episode. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, I don't think it
Yeah.
stood out to me that much, but go ahead.
No, I quite like this one. It actually reminded me a lot of the George A. Romero movie Crazies, that had basically the same premise without the electronic aspect. But that was basically about a small town where everybody just seems to go berserk for no reason. In this one, they actually add a little bit of depth to it by having them all get their cues from electronic devices.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got one thing I really liked about this too is continuing the great tradition of guest stars. William Sanderson is in this one of the great that guy actors, probably best known for Blade Runner, I think, but he was also in Deadwood as well. Tends to play like kind of creepy nerdy guys, and he's the postal worker. He's the first guy we see. He has or no, it's not a postal worker. He's a factory worker, and he gets laid off at the beginning, and then he gets a message from one of the machines in the factory telling him kill them all. I think he later sees it in an ATM. I think the first killings though occur in an elevator, and this one guy in an elevator sees a message that says "Can't breathe, kill them all," and he kills everyone in the elevator. So they start investigating. Mulder's investigating on his own because Scully's still at the academy. And as they investigate, they find not only clues between the murders and electronic devices, but also clues between the murders and phobias. There's this one woman, she's like getting her car checked out, and he quotes her price that she feels like she's getting ripped off, and one of the LED devices starts telling her he's ripping you off, he's going to rape you, kill him, and she beats him to death with a wrench. So all of this is triggered to phobias being channeled through electronics, driving people to homicidal rage, and it actually winds up tying into a pesticide that is being sprayed over the town. And this is at the root cause of all of this. So basically, the pesticides causing hallucinations that exacerbates people's worst fears and turn them homicidal.
Is are the lone gunmen in this episode?
No.
That's weird. I don't know why I put that in there. Uh, I just wrote down lone gunmen. But anyway,
No,
you
no,
just
you're thinking
reminded.
of the climax. You're thinking of the climax. The William Sanderson character is basically about to reenact the Charles Whitman shootings at the end because he
Oh
holds out.
yes,
He
yes.
holds out. He's really strong, but at the end, he finally caves.
Yeah, because they saw Mulder's blood. Yes, that's so. It's literally a lone gunman, not the lone
Yeah,
gunman.
yeah,
Okay, yeah. I wrote it in with plural by mistake. Yeah. Um, I like that the cop was open to Mulder's, to his ideas. I put
yeah,
down solid, but nothing special, man. As you can tell by the fact that I could barely remember any of it. I'm on the X Files fandom page, and the first comment is, "This is one of the dumbest episodes of the show."
okay.
But I don't know. Yeah, I guess it was an interesting concept. There's nothing about it that made me really fall in love with it. Felt like season one leftover, where they're still just trying to figure out how to get some solid concepts to work, but didn't really do it for me. Um, Although I like the idea going postal, because that was something that was in the news a lot back in. I don't know if you're, well, I'm sure you remember back in the '90s
Yeah,
in the U.S. It started with a postal office worker who got fired, and then he killed everybody. Well, he didn't kill everybody, but he went on a shooting spree at work, and that's where the term "going postal" is derived from. But then there were like a bunch of incidents of uh, workers doing this when they got fired, and then eventually it went to the kids because kids learn from the adults, I guess. And then we had the school shootings. But speaking of which, we haven't had a school shooting in a while.
no,
Kind of
no.
missed
Well,
those.
that's what happens when schools are closed.
Well, no, there was that, but even before that, were there a lot of school shootings? There were a few shootings out there. But anyway, that's another topic. I just kind of was reminiscing on school shootings. Guys, by the way, don't listen to anything I say tonight. Like I was telling Pete today, I had 6 straight hours of working in a school. Actually, I work teaching kids, and my brain is a bit jelly right now. Um, so yeah, I don't have much to say. I gave this one 3 stars. It didn't really do it for me, but it wasn't a bad episode. Definitely stronger than some of the looser season one episodes, but it didn't really grab me uh, that much. Now the next episode I liked a little bit more, and we got our man Tony Todd in Sleepless, and we have our introduction to Krychek, who
Yes.
was in Genderbender, but after he almost got raped by a almost tranny, he decided to join the FBI. And this is a wacky episode, man, but I really dug it. And it deals with these folks who were part of another military experiment. And this one is to create almost these super soldiers who wouldn't be able to sleep. They just could stay up and do massive amounts of killing. Well, Tony Todd's character, known as Preacher, he ain't having it. He wants his revenge. And not only this, he's kind of on this mission of reckoning to all of his brothers that were in the war with him. I believe it was the Vietnam War.
Yeah,
And uh, he is giving them recompense. He's like, man, you did a lot of terrible things. We all got to pay, including myself. He does do himself in at the end. But how is he doing this? That's the X file. Because the first death is this guy, his apartment catches on fire. And you think it's really catching on fire until you realize later nothing's on fire. But then when
there was
Scully
no
does
fire.
another one of her cool autopsies, they're like, this guy has no signs of uh, death by burning yet, like exterior,
Yeah,
but it's as if his body though really believed it was burning. So on the inside, yes, it's got everything that you would encounter in a burn victim, but on the outside it doesn't look like that. And then just one more thing here that I think is cool is Krychek gets this case first, and he plays a pretty good, convincing, green agent.
yeah,
I will admit, even though I know Krychek ends up being the biggest asshole in the history of the show, well, maybe Diane is pretty much up there. I was sold for a little bit. I was like, oh wait, when does Krychek turn into an asshole? He played that pretty well, so it got me. He fooled me for a little bit,
yeah.
and
He's almost like a Mulder fanboy. That's how he kind of
yeah,
appeals to him. Because at first Mulder, like, he doesn't want a partner. He doesn't want to work with anyone. He ditches him, tells him to go get a car, and then ditches the poor guy. And you feel bad for him, especially, he's open minded. He wants to learn from the seasoned agent. And then, of course, the last scene in the episode is him reporting to the smoking man.
exactly. So real nicely played there with Krychek, and which is played by Nicholas Lea, the actor, and I loved the whole flashback to Fubai. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Where they were and where they murdered all these women and children, and like the ghosts or I don't know what they are come back to get the guy. It's a really dark episode. Very strong episode. I love the camera work and the train station scene too. Really great stuff happening over there. Um, and of course, not only do we have a great horror actor, and we saw him. Oh no, Pete didn't get to watch that documentary on Shutter. The what is it? Horror noir about the history of blacks in horror, and Tony Todd plays a big role in that. But we got more black on the X Files with
Yeah,
Mr.
Mr.
X.
X is finally
Oh
revealed.
man, do I love this dude, man? Because he ain't fucking around. I mean, he makes it very clear. Deep Throat put his ass out on the line for you and got himself killed. I am not prepared to do that. You're gonna play my way or the highway, and that's it. No questions asked. And he's got the muscle to back up his words because I ain't trying to fight.
Exactly. That's the thing, man. Like, Deep Throat was an old man, but this guy knows how to tango.
Exactly. So if you say no, I want it now, he'll just bitch slap the shit out of you. He'll bitch slap you the next week. So I love him. I love him. He's my one of my favorites of the informants. So I give this one a nice. I give it a strong 4. I didn't put a rating here on my notes, but just thinking about it now, I give it a 4 star. I dug this episode a lot. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty solid. It was kind of creepy. Again, mostly for the Vietnam flashbacks and the death scenes. I thought were really creative. And I think the real horror, though, of this episode was when they get to the truth of the matter and find
Uh-huh.
out the real reason why Tony Todd is gunning for these people. It's not even just so much about retribution, but about putting them out of their misery. And we get this backstory of this unit who were subjected to experiments to deprive them of sleep. And the motherfuckers just went rogue, basically. They'd go off on these covert missions. And then eventually they just started giving themselves their own missions, which ultimately, involved the murder of civilians, women, children, and yeah, that to me was like the scariest thing about it. The idea of this elite unit with no accountability to anyone, just wandering around a war zone doing whatever the fuck they want. That was the real scary aspect for me.
Mm. No, that's cool, man. Yeah, it's nice that you brought this other angle of like putting these guys out of their misery because they just had to live with this, and they still couldn't sleep, right? Even
Yeah,
after. So, and then the idea here is that somehow, by being deprived of sleep for so long, Tony Todd's character has been able to, I don't know, connect with the astral plane or something. Like he's able to like make you see things that aren't there. You can hallucinate things, which is in the train scene where they're kind of hunting. I think they're trying to hunt him down, right? And then they don't see him; they see somebody else. But it's and
yeah.
like
Well,
he just
Mulder
wakes up.
sees him, and we're never actually really sure if he saw him or not, or if that was just like a mind fuck to make him see him, because he appears to get shot, but everyone else says the guy wasn't even there.
Exactly. So that's part of the mystery of what happens, and it is a scary feeling because I'm sure you've had your sleepless days,
Oh yeah,
and man, after a while, your brain just starts playing tricks on you. It starts playing tricks on you even after just one day. If you have a
yeah,
really long day, like mine right now, after I had this really long, I got up at 7 this morning, and I've been like just going straight since 7. Man, your brain just starts going nuts, and then you lose a little bit of, yeah, you can lose a little bit of yourself. So it is a very scary episode because of how realistic it is, because you don't know what you're doing after you haven't slept for a while. Like you don't have motor skills, you don't have the same judgment that you do. You might go into a house you might not have gone into otherwise. So it's scary. And Tony Todd, fucking, he's legendary. He does his thing. He raises the episode for me. Sashimi doesn't get that much work anymore. I wonder if he will be in the Candyman reboot with Jordan Peele. I wonder. We shall see. And we're moving right along, guys. Thanks for listening. And we got the big old Mythos episode. This is the big one. Two-parter. Right at the start of the
yeah,
season. Dwayne Barry. Mr. Dwayne Barry. And it's a
yes,
tough one. Wait, let me see something. I forgot to click here on Sleepless. By the way, guys, Sleepless premiered on October 7th, 1994, to 13 million viewers, written by Howard Gordon, directed by Rob Bowman. But let's skip ahead now to Dwayne. In Dwayne Barry, October 14th, 1994, 13 million viewers, written by Chris Carter, directed by Chris Carter. So this is Chris Carter's brain at work here. And I got a quote here. It says, "Sometimes it hurts real bad and you just want to die. It's like living with a gun to your head and never knowing when it's going to go off." That's a quote by Dwayne Barry.
yeah,
Synopsis: Mulder becomes involved in a hostage situation with an escaped psychiatric patient who claims to be terrified of frequent alien abductions. Part one of two. So, speaking of being awake too long, I forgot who went first last time. But go ahead, Pete. Talk Dwayne Barry.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to talk about this without talking about the second half because it is a the first official two-parter. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, to be honest, like this episode by itself didn't really work for me at all. It only works as part of a two-parter because the episode itself is basically a hostage situation that happens to involve aliens. One thing about this, actually, another great guest star we have here, as Wayne Barry himself,
Excuse me. Sorry.
is Steve Railsback, who's probably best known for playing Charles Manson in the television miniseries Helter Skelter. And he was also in a great movie with Peter O'Toole and Barbara Hershey called The Stuntman, which was pretty good as well. And he's been in lots of B movie and television shit. But yeah, probably best known for playing Charlie Manson in Helter Skelter. But,
Didn't know that.
but yeah,
Oh,
the basic
can I give one guest star that I love? A
sure.
woman that I love whenever
Oh,
she's on screen?
CCH Pounder.
Of
Yes, of course.
course. My girl. That's what I have here on my notes. My girl. I love her.
Yes, yes.
From The
CCH.
Shield and many others. But, for me,
Yeah, I
that's
know
my
her
best
best from
part.
The Shield. Yeah. Yeah, so a couple good guest stars in this one. But the this episode has it by taken by itself, it's there's really nothing to it. Mulder and Krychek get called in on this hostage situation, specifically because Mulder believes in aliens, and the guy taking people hostage is claiming to be an alien abductee. Not just an alien abductee, but he's been abducted multiple times, and this is why he alleges he's crazy. And his goal is basically to take his psychiatrist to the site where he was abducted, hoping that the aliens will take him instead, and then he'll see that he's really not crazy and he will finally be free of the aliens. But it's mostly just Mulder doing hostage negotiation stuff. There's not much to it except for Mulder trying to convince Pounder that his strategy of, uh, of telling him that he believes the truth is the right one because she's telling him you're feeding his delusions. But she's starts to realize, oh shit, Mulder actually believes this stuff to the point where he lets himself be taken hostage in exchange for one of the other hostages. But yeah, it's just Mulder trying to relate to Dwayne Barry and trying to convince the cops that this is a good strategy. In the background, we have Scully doing background research that actually leads to her finding that he has had something done to him. But she also finds out she was shot in the head, and that might be why he's crazy.
That'll do it.
Yeah, so as a two-parter, it works. This episode by itself, I wasn't crazy about.
Well, there are a few things I really loved about it. I gave this one 4 stars, and I didn't even realize it was a two-parter till I finished it, and I was like, "Oh shit, there's more to it." Um, I actually like the whole hostage situation thing. I tend to like movies and even TV shows that deal with hostage situations, or anything, or something similar, like like Inside Man or Dog Day Afternoon, where it's like you just kind of just stuck in one scenario and all of the emotions that go on in that scenario. I like stuff like that, so maybe that's why I didn't mind it that much. I'm really into stuff like that. Just people in a room. Like, what's that Sartre play? No Exit. Just four people in a
Right.
room, just talking it out and realizing this is hell. So I liked it. I liked it a lot. And I think I might even like it a little bit more than the second episode. But we do get Mulder in a Speedo. That's important.
Yeah.
Okay. And we also get some of the freakiest, scariest, fucked up alien abduction scenes, dude. That's what sells this episode to me. I was posting it on my WhatsApp status, watching it, and just and everybody kept asking me, "What show is this? This is so freaky." And yeah, this is the alien abduction stuff that comes out of Whitley Strieber's Communion. I don't know if you ever seen that movie with Christopher Walken.
No, I don't think I have.
Oh, dude, talk about a scary fucking movie. But Christopher Walken plays Whitley Strieber, which is a real guy who's been on like Larry King. He still has a podcast I listen to every once in a while. But he claims he was abducted by aliens, and it was not a good experience. And they anally probed him, and they put implants in him. Yeah, I mean that's the reaction you would mostly get if when you talked about his anal probes. But he popularized anal probes. but he would talk about it so sincerely and so like that people just kind of believed him. His that book Communion was a New York Times bestseller, and it's just kind of his career as an alien abductee uh, went, skyrocketed after that because he would say it so earnestly, and you're like, man, not every heterosexual married man in their 40s wants to talk about something going up their ass, especially not an alien thing going up their ass. So we get that. And so Dwayne Barry, I believe, was really feeding off of those images, or Fire in the Sky, another really scary alien abduction movie if you've never seen it. Um, Not that great of a movie, but the alien abduction scenes are pretty fucking scary. Also based on a true story, air quotes. So that's what I liked about this episode. Dwayne Barry's abduction scenes and the hostage situation. I liked it. It's very tense. I thought Mulder played it well. Scully's in the background, but Scully's like mega pregnant by now, so they kind of left her in the background.
Yeah,
In
and
my
she
eyes.
does. She does figure pretty prominently in the end, though. I think the end for me was the best because it's one of those. Okay, it seems like it's over. Dwayne Barry got shot by a sniper. End of story. Except he lives, and Mulder gets a barcode from. No, that's it's a chip from his body,
Yes,
and he
and she
passes it
passed.
on to Scully, and she finds a little barcode on it, and she scans it at the supermarket, and it makes the cash register go freaking crazy. So she's
Dude,
like, "Ah, this barcode is something."
dude, do you know how many times I used to try to do that when I was a kid? I used to scan my hand after watching this episode just to see if I had been shipped. No, you just reminded me. I forgot that that was part of this episode. So there's another reason I love this one. But you notice she had these really big coats in this episode, and they try to always film her from like the chest up because she was mega pregnant already by the filming of this episode. So I dig it a lot. I dig it a lot, and for those reasons, so I give it high marks.
And
But
she does
then,
get kidnapped at the end
yes, she
by
does,
Dwayne Barry. Yes.
which leads us to. Oh, I put episode 6 twice there by mistake, but that was episode 5 in the slides. Sorry, guys. Um, and I put some Mulder in the Speedos. It's all kind of in the same. It's all part of the same story. We got some cry check, and we got Dwayne Barry up in the mountain. Somebody's coming to take him. Who is it? So, Ascension. Okay? Ascension came out the following week, obviously, because it's part of a two-parter. Or did it? Let me see if they made us wait. No, October 21st. And it's written by Paul Brown and directed by Michael Lang. Mulder attempts to search for Scully when she is abducted by Dwayne Barry, the escaped mental patient who recently held Mulder hostage. Few things here, and then I'll let you go. One, I love that Nick Cave song that they play. Do you know what
Nick
song
Cave.
that is?
Nick Cave.
Yes, the what is it? The Red Right Hand? Is that what it is? had it open, but then I closed it. It's God damn it. I hate when I close things that I have open. Yeah, Red Right Hand. I was right. The song playing the first time Dwayne Barry is seen is Red Right Hand, performed by Nick Cave in the Bad Seeds. And Krychek plays a
Being
big
a
part of this.
bastard.
He's an absolute bastard. That's when we learn how much of a bastard he is. So the thing is this, guys. So Scully gets kidnapped at the end of this episode. I think it's because she had the little thing, right? She had the scan. That's how Dwayne Barry found her, and he takes her up to the mountain where he believes he's gonna be abducted because he wants these freaking aliens to take somebody else. He's tired of
Yeah.
being abducted. So Scully spends the majority of this episode in the trunk of a car again, kind of to hide her pregnancy, but just because the story asked for it. Um, the FBI is searching for her. Mulder, being the smart guy that he is, figures out where they are going, and Krychek tags along. They get up to Sky Mountain, I believe it's called, or wherever they are, and then we get one of the most bizarre scenes. Well, it's an interesting scene where he goes up to the mountain using that little tram, and the he just has to go really fast, and it's not going fast enough. It's supposed to be suspenseful, but what always made me wonder is why doesn't Krychek stop the little tram like halfway up? Like he waits till it's all the way up at the top before stopping it. Like if he really didn't want Mulder to get up there, he could have just stopped it like at the midpoint because he does beat the operator over the head. So he could have just said, "Hey, conk," and then I guess that meant the episode would be over. So plot shield there with the little tram. And I don't know. I know you said you didn't like episode one as much, but for me, I think episode one has a lot more tension, a lot more going for it as far as high drama. This episode, not that much for me because you kind of know what the end result's going to be. I mean, Scully's not going to die. I mean, she does get taken, but that's because she was pregnant, so they needed her gone for an episode. Which, oh my god, next week we're going to start with a real doozy: vampires, Mulder and vampires, and his real life girlfriend. Um, but one last note is this Gillian Anderson's real life pregnancy, and bless her heart, she has every right to get pregnant. But the fact that they had to write it into the show as part of the mythology arc is like I mark episode 6 of season 2 of the X Files as the start of the bullshit mythology with this fucking baby, this William that went all the way to the last episode of the X Files that we'll probably ever see in our lives, which was horrible, the season 11 episode with William. So for me, I soured on this episode even more watching it now because I realized this is where the real bullshit begins, where Chris Carter and company had this great idea, this genius idea of like, why don't we incorporate her pregnancy into the story? Like, why? She could have just been abducted. It could have been one of the cloning storylines. Could have been any number of storylines, not one involving Scully getting pregnant. Because man, oh man, this baby becomes just a baggage for a long time. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I like this a lot better than the other one because this is one where it really moves. It's not just them and a travel agency. You got the whole first. The abduction doesn't even occur at the climax of the episode. Actually, they pack an awful lot in before the abduction, and that only occurs at about the 20-25 minute mark. So it's got this kind of like moving from point A to point B to point C thing going on very, very fast. I mean, first of all, they realized that Scully's been abducted because she was on the phone with Mulder when it actually happened. So he knows something's happened, and then they have to figure out where he's taken her. He does this with Krychek, who's working to undermine him the whole time. And then you have that can't really, it is the climax because it's the big action scene, but the big showdown on the mountain with the tram where Krychek really shows his true colors, tries to fuck him over by knocking out the guy, stopping the tram. We don't actually see the abduction. We see like the ship arriving, and then the next thing we see is Mulder getting there. The only thing left of Scully is her necklace, and Barry says he took her. So that's the climax, but we still have so much more fallout to come from that. Um, Even in the aftermath, Krychek's now been kind of exposed, so he's trying to cover up his whole role in this thing, and I like that aspect of it too. It's like, how's he going to get out of this one? If they want him to keep being like Mulder's buddy, he's in a bit of a pickle. And actually, it turns out he doesn't get out of it. He basically tips his hand. Uh, it's a We don't see what he does, but it's implied that somehow he's responsible for Barry dying while in police custody. Mulder figures it out, and Krychek has to hightail it. You have the
Oh yeah,
smoking
he
man.
chokes to death, right?
He does. He chokes to
Yeah,
death
yeah,
while
yeah.
he's with
I forgot.
Krychek.
Yes, I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
Yeah, there is a scene where Krychek meets with the smoking man and says, "Man, like the easiest way for us to get out of this, meaning him, is to kill Mulder." But we find out later that the smoking man has other reasons for wanting Mulder alive. Here he uses the excuse that they don't want to make a martyr out of him. So they decide to let him live, and in the end, we get what we have been working to for these first 6 episodes, which is Skinner, on his own authority, reopens the X Files because Scully's
Yes, he
abduction
does.
is most definitely a classic X File, and now we know that Skinner is a believer.
It's so incredible to me. It shows how long it's been since I watched this because I think I mentioned this in another podcast we did. That when I was growing up watching these, it wasn't just me, it was like my whole family. We were all like, we used to get upset at Skinner. We're like, come on, motherfucker. And sometimes we wouldn't know which side he was on. But rewatching these now, it's like really clear from the beginning that he's definitely on Mulder and Scully's side. He just has his hands tied a lot of times. And not only that, he's a bit of a believer. Is this the episode, by the way? Did we skip this? Where he goes down to the basement to have a talk with Mulder, and he talks about like his time in the war.
No,
Like he
that's
gives this
later.
pep talk. Oh, that's later. Okay, that was a really great scene where he gives Mulder this pep talk about like you can't give up, you can't
No, that's when they're
this that and
looking
the
for
third.
Scully. That's when he's
Oh, then
basically
it was
ripped.
this episode.
No,
Okay,
no, no, no. It's not
yeah.
this episode. It's not this episode. It's
Oh,
later
it
because
isn't.
Scully's. It's the one actually just before they find her, I think, because Mulder's ready to give up, and
Oh, okay.
he's telling him not to give up.
I got you. Yeah, because that was a really, really, really good episode. Maybe it's One Breath, the one where she comes back.
That might be it. Yeah, because that's also the one. Well, we'll get to that.
We'll get to it because it can't be the next episode because next episode is the vampire episode, and that, well, I don't want to get into it. And then the episode right after is already Scully's back. So at some point, he has uh, this nice talk with him. Actually, no, yeah, I have it here. I have it here. But anyway, well, I'm glad you like this one. It's not bad. I'm not gonna say it's bad at all. It's just it gave me bad feelings after because you kind of know what's coming. Uh, just some roundabout way to work. the pregnancy into the series, and I think that was the biggest mistake that they made. They should have just kept her pregnancy as a real life event. She managed to hide it well with certain shots, and she was back in action, you know? She was back in action very quickly. So, guys, hope you enjoyed this week. And as usual, Pete, out of these, let's go back and recap and say what to skip and what to definitely watch. Episode
Yes.
1, Little Green Men.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's one you can skip. Even though it's kind of a mythology episode, it doesn't really contribute anything in terms of advancing the story at all. You get the same beginning in the host that you do in the Little Green Man. Mulder and Scully are still basically in the same place. And it's like that episode didn't even happen. I can't recall there ever being any further acknowledgement of that episode at any other point. So you could totally start season 2 with the host and not miss anything.
You know something? As much as I love this episode, I can't disagree with you. I just happen to love it for the abduction. Well, not abduction, but the visitation scene and just Mulder going paranoid and stuff like that, and the character interactions between him and Scully. So I'll give it a watch. I think I'd say watch it, but at the same time it's weird because I completely agree with everything that you said. So just very very personal opinion there on that overrides my logical thinking. What about episode 2, host?
Oh yeah, one of the all-time best.
I agree. If you've never seen one episode of the X Files and you want to just jump in, this is one. It's fucking great. Host. What about Blood?
I really like this one, but it's definitely not a must-see. One thing I really liked about this episode, though, was the ending. Once they stop spraying, because Mulder gets affected by the pesticides as well. And the last thing he sees is an electronic message. It's been fun. Bye. I thought that was a
Yes.
really creepy ending. But yeah, it's not essential viewing.
I agree with you. I could barely remember it for the podcast, so I'm going to say skip that one. What about Sleep?
Same thing, really. Good episode, but you wouldn't be missing much by skipping it.
And you know what? I'm going to go with Pete with this one. As much as I really loved it, I think this is a deeper cut. This is after you're a fan and you want to see a deeper cut episode. Sleep then is definitely a must watch. But if you're just getting into the series, it might turn you off. It's not one of the best ones. And then we got Dwayne Barry, episode 5, part 1.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I like Blood and Sleepless more than this, but you have to see this one just so the next episode makes sense.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's a strong mythology episode that builds into the next one. So I guess we can just jump right into the next one, which I think is also a watch. So the whole Dwayne Barry arc, it's essential viewing if you want to understand anything going on with Scully's role in the mythology in this fucking baby that we're going to learn about later on. Although I'm kind of giving a spoiler because we don't know that she's going to get pregnant in this episode, but it becomes very clear in just 2 episodes that is what happens to Scully, even though she doesn't know. So yeah, I guess double watch then, 5 and 6.
Yeah,
I agree with you. But we got a lot, uh, very strong episodes to start this season, I think,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it doesn't let down that much. I don't think
I
we're gonna have as many lulls.
Yeah, I'm kind of going to disagree there, but I have to say that this was at a time when I was really like not getting enough sleep when I was watching the next batch we're going to watch. And most of them I could barely stay awake from. So my memory is pretty foggy on the next batch of 6, but I remember they didn't do a lot for me.
Okay, no, we'll talk about them. We'll talk about them. I got a lot of 4.5 and 4 stars and 3 stars, except for the vampire episode, which I can't wait to talk about because it's one of my least favorite episodes of all time. But all right, y'all, this is it. Hopefully, we'll see you back here next week, or if you're listening during the week, thanks for listening. Leave a comment below. Which of these 6 episodes do you like? Which one of these 6 do you dislike? And do you agree that the whole Scully abduction part of the mythology arc was a big mistake? Because I certainly do. So we will see you next week.
Cheers. Thanks for listening. The truth
Adios.
is out there.
The truth is out there, and I think we can do a little bit of this here as an outro because this was fucking cool, man. Yeah. All right. So check out this guy's page here. Richard